The Opinionated Idiot.
It is Sunday fun day. We're back here on the Opinionated Idiot YouTube channel. I want to welcome everybody in. It is April 30th, 2023. I think this is the last day of April, right? Tomorrow is May. Do I have that right? Or is it like, no, tomorrow is May. For some reason, I thought there was 31 days in April, but there's not 31 days in April. Well, welcome everybody. I see the chat buzzing in there. We always love the chat buzzing. We always love the chat, but bing, buzzing. Bing, bong, bong, bing, bing, bing. I have fixed my sounds for the evening, which is great. I have all my tones worked out. I think they're working well. They're sounding good. I got the mic a little more organized. So I got some comments about my clicking in my mouth or something like that. I don't know. It's just the way I talk. So deal with it, because I will be opinionated right back. We got an action-packed show tonight. We're going to talk a little bit of the Lori Vallow case. I know that I haven't really been covering a lot of that on the channel. And to be honest with you, haven't really followed much of it. But today I did a little bit of catching up on the case. I know it's currently in trial. So we're going to talk a little bit about that and what a bunch of weird mysteries surrounding that family. All the weird, suspicious deaths. Obviously, the death of the children. Lori and her estranged boyfriend or husband was traveling over to Hawaii. They're trying to find out where their kids were. Just really, really crazy stuff in that case. And of course, towards the end of the show, second half of the show, we're going to talk a little bit Bryan Kohberger stuff as well, too. So we thought we'd mix the show up. I'll be honest with you. I had a couple of more cases and news breaks that I wanted to talk about. I want to cut the show down because I have something that I want to show you guys at the end that actually is probably still going on right now, but we'll get to that. And that has to do with Lori Vallow and Bryan Kohberger as well. Before I start the show, though, and also, I have a special guest this evening that we'll be bringing in here in a couple of minutes. But before we start the show, I always like on the weekend shows to start with a statement or some reflection. Let's call them reflections. I got something for you guys. Hear me out. In a legal system, guilt or innocence is determined through a fair trial where evidence is presented and arguments are made by both the prosecution and defense. If a person is found guilty, they are held responsible for the crime they committed, and they must face punishment such as imprisonment or fines. Finding justice for victims is to hold the perpetrator accountable for their actions and providing some form of compensation and restitution to a victim. The aim to ensure that the victim receives some measure of closure and that the perpetrator faces consequences of their actions. However, it is important to note that the concept of justice is subjective and can be very based on cultural or social norms. Some individuals or communities may view justice as a form of retribution, while others may focus on rehabilitation, preventing future harm. Overall, the legal system aims to balance the rights of the accused with the needs to protect society and provide justice for victims. It's a complex process that requires careful consideration of evidence, legal precedent, and ethical principles. So just some reflections and thoughts. for all of you. And as we do, like we always do, let's try to look and read some of the chatters that are hanging out this evening. I want to recognize George for becoming a new member of the team. All right. And we have Amber's here. Dr. Bob, good to see you back. We were thinking about you. Danielle is here as well. I have Candy here as well. Victorine, they beat you. They beat you. They beat you tonight. Who else do we have? Firefly is here. Thanks for coming and hanging out this evening. Tsunami, Nanu. Chosen Rosen is here as well. I'm losing my voice at the very minute. Unravel is here. Good to see you as well. Who else do we have? The chatters. The chatters. KD is here, says good evening, new subscriber, first live. Well, welcome to the stream. Thanks for hanging out. We appreciate you. Pamela's here as well. She's popping up those opinionated emojis, and I promise I'll get some new ones up there this week. Jessica's here, says what's up to you. Christine is here, says I was saying yesterday that with you gone, there's nobody keeping us in line, Dr. Bob. That's really funny. YouTuber is here, says good evening. Jeff Lane's in the house. Good to see you, Jeff. That's a long time subscriber. That's like OG subscriber. Jeff's OG. The OG. Cactus Flower is here. AZ is in the house as well. Newman is here. If I skip anybody, I apologize. Just trying to get them all in. So digging the shirt. Yeah, I thought I'd probably, just trying to spice it up a little bit tonight. Not my normal attire, but I said, you know what? I'm going to pull a fun shirt out. So wow, tropical shirt. Absolutely. Let's see. JD's here. Good to see you. And did I miss anybody else? Mitchell's here. Good to see you as well. And I'm probably missing everybody here. I apologize. Laura is here as well. And everybody's loving the shirt. I bet you're wearing a hula skirt too. No hula skirt. Boxer shorts. You know that. I think I got everybody. I think I got everybody. You know what I want to do that I have not done yet? And I've been wanting to do this because it's the other stream. Just drop where you're from. Just drop where you're from in the chat as we go along. I'd love to see where you guys are all from. Name the states that you live in. I'd really love to see that. And while you do that, I'm going to bring in my special panel guest. Oh, look who's here. Whoa, look who's here on camera for the first time. It's Laura, a.k.a. Agent Chase in the house. How are you, Laura?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for coming on and hanging out on the panel here.
Absolutely.
Look at all these people. We got.
I know.
Let's see. We got Florida, Michigan, Arkansas. You're from Pennsylvania. We got West Virginia, Missouri. Bob says the chat's moving so fast. Indiana, Pennsylvania, the Bay Area, Michigan, New Jersey, Seattle, and Houston, Washington, and Texas. PA. Oh, you get another PA here as well. Let's see. California as well. Keep typing. All right. So what I want to do is get into our first story, and I'm going to call this my Scumbags of the Week. Total scumbags. I'm not afraid to say that. And I'm glad that these people are found. They are arrested. They are not convicted yet, but let's play this story. And I'll tell you, I had a very difficult time watching this. I think I sent the video over to you, Laura, today about these three high schoolers that I want everybody just to kind of see this. They were throwing, like, who in their right mind thinks that any of this is right? But let's play the video. I want everybody to see in the chat, and then we'll talk about it here. Okay, let me just cue this up and let's go.
This 20-year-old woman was driving when a rock came crashing into her windshield. It killed her. Authorities say it was not an accident. Within 45 minutes, a total of 7 cars were assaulted with rocks. Now 3 high school students, 18-year-old seniors, have been arrested and charged with murder. Les Trent has details.
It's a horrific rock-throwing crime that left a young woman dead. And now police have taken 3 18-year-olds into custody, charged with first-degree murder. They are all high school seniors. 20-year-old Alexa Bartell was killed just outside Denver when the boulder came crashing into her windshield. It was 10:45 at night and she was on her way home. Bartell was on her cell phone with a friend when the line suddenly went silent. That friend tracked Alexis's vehicle to a field. You can see the tire.
Now, I want everybody just to pay attention to that line. Tracked it to a field, and it's very relevant. It's very relevant in the Kohberger case. So remember that. I think you're going to see a lot of that in this case, but let's keep playing through this.
Tire marks. Authorities believe the suspects were on a rock-throwing spree, hitting 7 vehicles all within 45 minutes. They reportedly hurled huge landscaping rocks like these. Uber driver Nathan Tipton is one of the victims. His windows shattered by a rock thrown from a passing car. What did it sound like?
I heard what resembled like a shotgun blast, and it was the windows going out of my back of my van.
Tipton had just dropped off a customer minutes before he was targeted.
Jeez.
If they would have thrown that stone a second earlier, it would have came into my window, and it would have hit me.
All we know that Alexa Bartell was doing was driving down the road headed home when that rock came through her windshield, hit her, and killed her immediately. So we need to hold these people accountable.
Alexa in the knit hat was all smiles in this video, hamming it up. Her friends are grieving. They put up a makeshift memorial, flowers, personal notes. And she was remembered in a photo tribute posted by the photographer who took her high school senior photos. Her sister, Michaela Marie, posted this today. Alexa was killed in a most senseless act by the hands of monsters who took her life by throwing a large rock at her car at high speed. There are not enough human emotions or words to express the anger, the sadness, the pain, and the disgust I feel.
Police have made a point of saying that this was not part of a social media challenge.
What the fuck is wrong with people?
That's devastating. Young girl with her whole life.
I mean, what in your right mind would possess you to think that that is any sort of, like I can't even get the words out, right in any way of doing that. I mean, what's going on here? What, Laura, help me out. What's going on here with people?
It's as if these kids have no idea what consequences are. They don't think these things through. They're diabolical. This exact same thing happened in a community about a half hour from me, where 4 young boys, teenagers, went through rocks over an overpass, and a man was driving with his wife in the passenger seat and his daughter in the back. Oh no. It went through the windshield and disfigured his wife.
She was driving, right? I think she was driving.
I can't remember, but he wasn't affected. The daughter wasn't affected, but the wife, who was a school teacher in Ohio, her name was Sharon Budd. She was disfigured. She has had lots of brain injuries. And what's really sad is what happened in the case. And it was at the local hospital. We're right near a very big hospital, and they took care of her. I think it was about a year or so after she was injured, her husband took his own life because he just couldn't deal with it anymore. This is a senseless killing. It's a senseless injury. It's awful. Teenagers, it's as if they don't have any type of values. Let's see what Amber's saying.
So Amber says, I'm not going to say it's 100% parenting, but there is a lot of parents out there these days that have no business having kids. They do not parent their children at all. I have to, I'm going to agree. I'm going to disagree. I'm going to disagree with Amber, I think, respectively, because I think it all does, things like this start at the home. These are values that are taught in the home. These are parents that are not spending the appropriate time with their children and teaching them right and wrong. That's how I feel. I mean, that's my opinion. I know Amber and I probably differ on this. I don't have children, so I don't know. I don't know what it's like being a parent. But I think a lot of this is it's missed in the home. Those values are missed. So Amber says that's what I was saying, Brian. I'm a parent of a 16-year-old and a 13-year-old, and I'm very involved in their lives. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, again, I just wanted to raise some. I know it's tragic, but I wanted to raise some awareness to this case. If you all want to continue to follow it, if I have any updates as this goes along, we'll certainly follow along in that case. All right, let's talk a little Lori Vallow. She's recently, facing trial now. I'll read a little bit of this article. I think we heard about this was sometime last year. It's an Idaho case. This is out of Boise. And I'll read a little bit of this article here. So just bear with me for a second. It says, Doomsday mom Lori Vallow Daybell faces trial. Here's what to know about the case. Lori Vallow Daybell is on trial in Boise, Idaho for her alleged role in the deaths of her 16-year-old daughter, Taylor Ryan, and 7-year-old adopted son, Joshua J.J. Vallow, and her husband's first wife, Tammy Daybell. She pled not guilty. The trial, which is expected to last up to 10 weeks, started on Monday, April 10th, after a week of jury selection that dozens of potential jurors dismissed, many for being too familiar with the details of the case or having already formed an opinion. That is very good. That's a very good sentence there. And just keep this in mind, too, when we get into jury selection. If this goes to trial in the Kohberger case, they may run into these certain issues as well. How do you feel about that, Laura?
Absolutely. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if when they get to the trial that especially the defense, asks for a change of venue, because I mean, I believe that's happening with Delphi. I believe they've requested a change of venue with that to go to another court or another county. I definitely, I believe Bryan Kohberger, I believe that case will end up going to another county.
Yeah. I just want to keep this in mind too. As much as you think that jury selections may be difficult, they did it. They got a jury in the OJ case. So just say that.
Yeah,
I'll
right.
just say that. So as public as that was, as public as he was, obviously an athlete for many, many years, a very popular athlete, football player. Everybody knew the juice. Everybody knows the juice. A jury selection can happen. But let me keep reading through here. So it says the first week of the trial has seen some emotional moments with multiple witnesses moved to tears on the stand, and J.J. Vallow's grandmother openly weeping in the courtroom as he listened to as he listened to testimony. Witnesses have been described finding the bodies of J.J. and Taylor, as well as Valley Daybell's Vallow's Daybell's religious beliefs. The trial has been delayed in part because Vallow Daybell has been committed, but a judge ruled last year she was mentally competent to stand trial. Due to the ruling by the judge, Stephen Boyce, who is presiding over the trial, there's been no live video or audio of the trial. Keep that in mind. That may happen. No, you don't think so? It may happen in Kohberger if this goes to trial. So keep that in mind. To see the trial, you have to be there in person or get a reservation for a seat in the courtroom of one or two overflow rooms the day of the trial. For the first day of the trial, the 60 seats were available and were reported to reserve. They were reserved in 2 minutes. Let's see. So who are the people involved? Lori Daybell, 49, and her daughter, Taylor Ryan, from a previous relationship when she was married to Charles Vallow, her fourth husband in 2006. Holy smokes. In 2012, the two adopted 2-year-old Joshua, whose biological father was Vallow's nephew and son of his sister, K. Woodcock. Joshua is known as JJ, had autism, and by all accounts, he and his sister Taylor were close. This is nuts already. Like, I can't even get it straight. Like, what is going on? So Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell are now 54, met in 2018. The Vallow separated the following year, with Charles Vallow filing for divorce. He said that in the divorce filings that his wife had threatened to murder him. Jeez, please. She threatened me. She threatened me. She threatened me, murder me, kill me. He told police in a conversation caption on video in 48 hours reported. Charles Vallow was killed in 2019, shot in an altercation with Vallow Daybell's brother, Alex Cox of Arizona, where the Vallow family, including JJ and Taylor and Cox, were living at the time. Soon after, Vallow Daybell and her children moved to Idaho. Later that year, Tammy Daybell, the wife of Chad Daybell and the mother of the 5 children, died at Daybell's home in Idaho of what officials initially said were natural causes, but later said they were suspicious. What the heck is going on? The last time anyone saw Taylor Ryan was on September 19th, when the family took a trip to Yellowstone National Park. J.J. Vallow's biological grandparents, Kay and Larry Woodcock, said that was the last time they spoke to the 7-year-old in August. Kay Woodcock asked police in Rexburg, Idaho, to check on JJ in November, but Vallow Daybell told the police he was in Arizona with his family friend. The friend called Melanie Gibb told police. There's so many, like, this is the most weird, it's the weirdest twisted case.
I need a diagram. I need a family tree.
I think I need like a drink after reading this article.
Yeah. And I don't drink, but I was thinking the exact same thing. Like, what?
This is just so many people. Like, what is going on? So it says by December, police and the FBI were searching for 16-year-old Taylor and 7-year-old JJ. The hunt continued even after police arrested Vallow Daybell in Hawaii. And I remember like news media going over there and trying to hunt them down over in Hawaii and trying to, get them to answer, like, why are you not talking to police? Why are you not, coming back to the state? Well, they're in the States, but come back to the mainland and face, what's going on. So I remember all that coverage. The search continued in 2020 when police executed a search warrant on Daybell's property in Rex, Idaho. They found human remains, later identified as JJ and Taylor. Geez, man. Duct taped in red pajamas and hers badly burned. So that's kind of where we're caught up with right now. I got a video here from Law and Crime Network, and it will just give you kind of some 7 surprising facts about Lori Daybell. So let's bring that up and play through really quick here.
Vallow Daybell, known to the world as one half of the Doomsday couple, but there's more to her than that. We found 7 things about her you may not have known until now.
All right, before we kick off our latest episode of Sidebar, we got to thank our sponsor of this video, YouGov. So YouGov is the go-to side hustle for so many people. It pays to give your valuable opinions. To join and dogs.
I'm Sidebar Podcast.
I am
Lori
not sponsored
Vallow
by them,
Daybell
so I
has
fast
spent
forwarded
in
it.
a courtroom in Ada County, Idaho. That's in the Boise area. And this is where jury selection has been taking place. Judge Stephen Boyce has barred cameras from Lori Vallow Daybell's trial, but a courtroom artist is capturing images of the process. Opening statements are scheduled for Monday, April 10th, and Law and Crime will have those covered for you. But back to Lori. We know that she's incredibly religious, that she was raised a Mormon. She met Chad Daybell while she was still married to her late husband, Charles Vallow. Chad Daybell is a self-proclaimed prophet, author, and podcast host. Chad will be tried
Everybody's a
separately for the
podcaster.
murders of Lori's children, Tylee Ryan and JJ Vallow, and Chad's wife, Tammy Daybell. Lori is accused of murdering Tylee and JJ and conspiring to kill Tammy. She's also accused of using Social Security benefits for JJ and Tylee after they died.
What'd I do?
Lori lived in Arizona when she met Chad
There we
and
go.
then later moved to Idaho, where he lived. Chad is Lori's 5th husband. We've heard from Lori in an interview with police in Arizona after her brother Alex Cox shot her 4th husband, Charles. Take a listen to a little bit of that interview. Lori really has a gift for gab.
He was just so angry, like super scary.
Did
You know how you take your phone away from like a 16-year-old and
Uh-huh.
they freak out?
Uh-huh.
Like their world disintegrates. Like I've taken my phone away from a 16-year-old boy before and he like, he's like wanted to kill himself because
Yeah.
like they kidnapped him. That's how it was. It was like, there's something on his phone that he does not want me to see that he was like freaking out.
Mhm.
Like to the point where I thought he would hit me in the back of the head to get the phone.
Okay. So you thought, and not, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you thought it was possible that he was going to hurt you.
Absolutely, he was gonna hurt me and Tylee.
Okay.
Not JJ. He would never hurt JJ.
Okay.
He hurt my brother. Like
Yeah.
he was going like ballistic about. It was bad.
Okay.
John Blatt is the author of the book The Doomsday Mother, so he knows a lot about Lori Vallow Daybell, and he is here.
Why do these people get these books out like before anything has concluded? I think that's strange. Like I go on, like I've been on Amazon and there's already people writing books about like Bryan Kohberger and you know the Idaho murders, and like how can you write a book that hasn't even, you know, like we haven't even got to an end of a trial or anything. It's just so weird.
Here with us to discuss these 7 surprising facts about Lori Vallow Daybell. So, John, welcome to Sidebar. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
It's good to see you. I'm
least
really
his books are
interested
neat.
in hearing about how you became interested in this case and why you wrote the book.
Yeah, well, I think like a lot of other people,
Oh, they're record
I read
albums.
about it
Cool.
very early on
I
when
love
they
it.
were still looking for the,
This
you know,
guy's audiophile.
JJ and
I love
Tylee.
it.
Where are the children? I got interested. I've written a lot of true crime books, but I just thought this really piqued my curiosity. I wanted to find out more, and I took it to my publishers, Martin's Press, and they commissioned it. So I went ahead.
All right, congratulations.
Did you talk to a lot of people who knew her?
Oh yes, yeah. I mean, I spoke to a lot of her friends, whatever. I spoke to Kay and Larry Woodcock briefly, though they wouldn't be quoted in the book because they were doing their own. But I spoke to a lot of people that knew them. Especially spoke to one of Laura's best friends at school, who knew her very well. That gave me a lot of new insight into her.
Well, that's actually very interesting.
Yeah,
So,
I
John,
would think,
let's
yeah.
talk about these 7 things that we are looking at. Things some people may not know. People who follow this case incredibly closely may be aware of these things. But one of the things that shocked me when I was looking at this topic was the fact that Lori Vallow Daybell was a contestant on the Wheel of Fortune. I had no idea. So let's take a quick look at one of the clips, and then we'll talk about it.
Hi, you, Lori.
I'm
Lori
good. How are you?
Ryan from Austin, Texas.
That's
A
right.
hairstylist in Austin. Hey,
That's right. The best.
how's the hair in Austin?
So I don't think I'm going to be able to play this. I'm probably going to get whacked for this. I'm going to fast forward it.
How does Lori Vallow Daybell end up on the Wheel of Fortune?
Well, Laurie says she told her sister, in fact, that she had a message from God that she was needed to appear on the Wheel of Fortune, and she entered for it. She actually got on the show. It's very interesting that she mentioned her husband at the time, Joe Ryan, who she was in the process.
Christine says she was also a beauty pageant contestant.
I thought that as well, Christine. Thank you.
And she was bantering with Pat Sajak, and in fact ended up winning.
I think I remember her episode. I'm not going to lie. Like, I think I remember it before I even knew who she was. Like, I think I remember watching that episode.
Do we know about what year this was?
I think it was 2001. It was about 20 years ago, maybe
And
2002.
She just looks like a nice young woman, mom, blonde woman.
The Black
I
Widow.
guess when I watched that clip, I was shocked because it seems like a much different person than the person we see now. We only know her through this case. So she, even back then, she's talking about getting messages from God, and it sounds like believing in some type of religion.
Oh yes, I
Voodoo?
mean this goes back, predates that even. She was always talking that she was in contact with the spirits from behind the veil.
Oh boy.
Especially, this is another point. Her late sister Stacy, who died of diabetes many years earlier, she believed that she, spoke to her every night, and that Tylee was actually the reincarnation of her dead sister Stacy, and she firmly believed that. So she did this for many years. It wasn't something new.
Interesting. Okay, so let's get to that part because you said that she believed that Tylee was the reincarnation of her dead elder sister Stacy. Let's talk about that. Tell me about this.
Well, Stacy had an eating disorder, and I think she was like 5 or 6 years older than Laurie, and she died very tragically because she wasn't taking her medicine and she wasn't eating, and she died of sort of diabetes related things. The family were very upset, and Laurie became very close to Stacy's daughter, also called Melanie, and became like a second mother to her. And she was convinced that she would, she was in constant contact with Stacy.
Let's talk about this now, John. It sounds like Laurie Vallow dances to religious music in front of her room-length mirror late at night. What do we know about this?
Well, this goes back a long way. I mean, she even had her third husband, Charles Vallow, give her a special room. He built a special room with a full-length mirror, and late at night she would just turn on the music and dance in front of it. And this is something she did constantly. Wherever she lived, she always had mirrors up and she would dance. And in fact, I understand that when she was in jail, the inmates would say that she still danced late at night in her cell, in fact. So this was just how she communicated with God, I guess. I'm not sure.
So this is something that she was this is something that she's been doing for a while.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about this. Her bedroom closet portal, where she believed that Chad spiritually visited her late at night.
Weird.
Tell us a little bit about this.
Such a weird case.
Oh my God.
Yeah, she told her best friend Melanie Gibb that wherever Chad was, he would come and visit, and they had a special portal in her bedroom closet. Although he didn't come physically, he came spiritually, and they would be able to talk and pray together and commune, and make their plans, for the end of the world, and how they were going to, lead the 144,000 chosen people to the next life.
Interesting.
Oh my.
Next
That's
up,
a little weird.
Let's talk about this, John. How she persuaded inmates to make her red lipstick out of Jolly Rancher candies and eyeliner from pencils for her court appearances, convincing other people to do this for her. Why isn't this something maybe that she could have done for herself? Obviously, this is somebody who is concerned about her appearance.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Laurie was a total narcissist. I mean, and she really cared about her appearance, and she liked to look the best in court. And I think she befriended the other inmates, who were more experienced. They'd been there longer than her when she was first arrested, and they taught her how to make, bright red lipstick out of Jolly Rancher candy. And you can see in the videos of her court appearances, this, garish red lipstick that she had. And they also, she did eyeliner from pencils. And this was like surviving behind bars for Laurie, to look her best, when the cameras were on her, when she did court appearances. And I can't help but think this may be one of the reasons there are no cameras. That Judge Boyce did not allow cameras in the court because he knew Lori would play up to it and act like she was, you know, at a Hollywood opening or something.
This is very, I find this odd though, because she's able to convince these people. She's obviously made friends in jail. That's not unusual, but the whole thing about being able to convince people to do something, this kind of reminds me of going back to the body camera footage when Charles Vallow was killed by her brother, Alex Cox. And she seemed to be able to convince these police officers of that nothing, you know, that she didn't do anything wrong. Her brother didn't do anything wrong.
Oh, she was very persuasive. I mean, she knew how to make people, put people at their ease, communicate to them and relate to them. And that's one of the things she was very good at. She had a natural gift for relating to people. And I'm sure that's what she did with the other inmates, you know, who probably really liked her and wanted to help her.
All right. Now let's talk about this part, because I always kind of wondered, what did Lori Daybell do for a living? And apparently, Lori Vallow Daybell, she's had several different names, had a home salon where she cut her clients' hair. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I mean, that's what Lori did for a living right from the beginning. She was a hairdresser. She worked in salons in Texas, Arizona, and whatever. And when she married Charles Vallow, he actually gave her a home salon, and also her previous.
Oh, I like how he said
Joe
salon.
Given her a home salon too. So she would have her clients over, cut her hair, she'd cut relations' hair and whatever, and that's what she liked to do. And supposedly she was very good at it, you know.
Is this something that she had done for years and years, or what do we know about that?
Well, that's the only job I could ever find Lori had, you know, was working in salons, cutting hair, you know, beautician.
Salons.
So that's what she did for a living before she met, you know, the men that would keep her, you know.
I know that there are sometimes, you know, in jails at least, they'll have somebody come in, a barber or some type of person to provide this service. Is there any chance, I can't imagine giving an inmate, somebody who is charged with a serious crime as murder, a pair of scissors and having her have that kind of job in jail? Is there any indication that she's doing things for her fellow female inmates with this?
No, I don't have a clue.
Victorine loves it too.
Hush, hush, what's gone on behind bars since she was arrested. But I can say every court appearance, she looks really coiffed. Her hair looks perfect. She's got the makeup
it
and
up
everything.
for the camera.
So, I mean, she's gone to a great deal of trouble to look good for these court appearances. But whether she's cutting other people's hair in return, I have no way of knowing.
Probably.
She probably
interesting.
is.
That's just something I wondered about,
That's
since
like
she
a
seems to be
jail
very
thing.
focused on a.
What's that?
That's like a jail thing where
You help me, I help you type of thing.
yeah, and anybody with any type of like skill, I don't know where I've seen it, but men who typically men are barbers, they'll, you know, do guys' hair in exchange for protection or maybe Jolly Ranchers.
All right, let's go back to the video.
Appearance. Our next topic here, our next little factoid is the fact that she competed in a beauty pageant.
60 Days In. That's a great show.
Something in your research that
There
she
you go,
found that
Christine.
went on for her whole life, or talk to us a little bit about what you discovered.
No, she actually won, I think, Mrs. Hayes County competition beauty pageant in Texas. She competed with that, actually. She didn't win it. She was one of the finalists, and there's video of her, you know, being interviewed. You know, there was a swimsuit part of it. There was a costume part of it. And then she was interviewed. And, you know, she gave a very, very interesting interview for that. But I think she wanted to compete for Mrs. Texas. That was her next thing. But unfortunately, she didn't get through to it.
Do we have any indication, you know, I want to go back to the religion part of this, John. Do we have any indication that this is something, I mean, was she raised in an incredibly religious household? Was she always a Mormon? What do we know about that?
Well, her parents were Mormon. She was raised in a Mormon family. I mean, they went to church, they practiced, but I mean, Laurie's childhood friend told me that they were always very surprised because Laurie's mother, Janice, would go out in.
That's a big thing in Idaho, right? The Mormon religion is really big out there.
Yeah, the Church of Latter-day Saints is headquartered in Utah, and Utah. When you think of Idaho, you don't realize it's just a little box with then like a little chimney on it. So
Yeah.
it is so ingrained with the culture of the states around it due to its odd shape. But yeah, the Mormon Church is very big out there, and I believe at least one or two of the how do I say it? Characters in the Idaho 4 case, meaning everybody that we talk about, not just the 4, but there are some who are Mormon in that we talk about, people we talk about. I'm not
Right.
going to say who, but yeah, I'm pretty sure there's at least 2.
Sure. Yeah, it's funny that you said Utah because I spent when I was about 14 or 15 years old, I went out to Utah for a summer and spent a summer out there, and it is crazy. Like, and I'm not I don't want to knock anybody's religion, or I'm just saying, like, when it's Sunday, no one goes out. Like, if like I was like the only kid in the neighborhood like out on a Sunday. That's their religion. They stay home all day, sun up to sundown. They don't.
Yeah, they're
they don't
very
go out.
strict with the blue laws.
Yeah.
While, I know in the Northeast it has gotten much more lax.
Yeah.
Even in my lifetime, I remember when everything would close at 5 p.m. on a Sunday, and now there's a lot of things open later, but it kind of went back because of COVID. But yeah, but Utah, it's much stricter when it comes to Sundays.
Yeah. All right, let's keep playing through this, and then we got another
Hot pants
video
and
to bring up, which
leopard
is
skin tops
really
and everything,
interesting.
and looked anything but a devout Mormon. She was very fashionable in that way. So nobody really knows, but Laurie always claimed to be, in the religion, and later on she got more and more devout.
As far as the beauty pageant stuff, John, was this, I forgot what you said about whether or not she was doing this for long periods of time, or?
No, I think that was the only one, the Mrs. She was looking for Mrs. Texas, so she went in the early stages and went to Mrs. Hayes County, and didn't win that.
John, do you think that you'll be traveling to Idaho for this trial at all?
No, I don't. I mean, basically, I probably wouldn't get in the courtroom. I finished the book over a year ago. I've moved on since then, to other projects. So no, I'm not going to be going to Idaho. And unfortunately, I would have been watching it on television if it had been allowed cameras in the court, like the Murdoch trial. For the book I've just written on Alex Murdoch, but that's not going to happen. So like everyone else, I'm just, getting it through Twitter and other, reportage.
So not something you're continuing to follow very closely, but obviously something that captivated your attention, and you decided, hey, this could make a good book.
Lorraine says she was
Pretty
crazy,
much,
huh?
yes. But I've been following it pretty closely, since I finished the book. But for me to go to Idaho and cover it, I don't think so.
All right. Well, John Glad, author of The Doomsday Mother, we appreciate your time and appreciate you joining us. Thanks so much. And we look forward to having you on again.
All right. Well, that just got us caught up a little bit about what's going on in the Lori Vallow case. And it's just a mind bender of a case. There's just so many people involved, so many victims. And, I'll just be curious to see how this one's going to turn out in the end.
And she's just smiling and trying to be as glamorous as possible.
Right.
I mean,
okay, so
that could work to her advantage.
It could. We never know. So something came to my attention today, and I actually, while we were watching that video, I debunked it. But I want to share it with everybody. And I'll tell you how I debunked it. Okay. So someone wrote me today, and I appreciate the email. It was really nice that they reached out to me and they said, hey, did you notice? And I'll bring up the website. We're going to kind of transition into Idaho now, Bryan Kohberger, this part of the show. And we're also going to probably touch a little bit more on Lori Daybell as well. But let's do this. So someone reached out to me and said, hey, have you been on the Moscow Police Department website lately because it looks like some of the language has changed under the crime tips section. And I'll read it to you. It says, crime tips. Detectives are looking for context to the events and people involved in these murders. To assist the ongoing investigation, any odd or out of ordinary events that took place should be reported. Our focus in this investigation, not the activities, your information, whether you believe it is significant or not, may be a piece of the puzzle that helps investigators solve these murders. So probably everybody's going, well, why did this person write you? Why are you reading the website? Well, they came to my attention and said, did you see that they said people and it was person? Well, sorry, it has been people all the time, and I'll show you how I know that and why I know that. There is a little thing on the internet, I'm sure that everybody has heard of it, called the Wayback Machine. And I went back on the Wayback Machine. I pulled up the website from January, and it does say people. So all along it has said people, but I appreciate the email.
Good eye.
It was a good eye. It was interesting to get that tip. We like to go over things when we hear about them, and you can see up there in the right-hand corner, that's from January 1st of 2023. So to me, it's been all along. It has been people, but I appreciate the viewer that did write me to let me know, and it gave us some content to vet and do that, because we want to stay true to this case and stick to the facts. And if there are updates that are going on, even just as minuscule as that may seem, as some people might go, oh, that's just stupid, blah, blah, it's still information in this case, and we need to know about it. So, okay, now going into, I'm not sure if you all knew this, but Brian Enton went live tonight with a panel of experts, and they discussed Lori Vallow's case and Bryan Kohberger. So they streamed for about an hour. They went live this evening at about 7:30 Eastern Standard Time. I was going to go live and watch it live with them, but I said, you know what, let's do the normal show. We'll pull it up towards the end, and we'll kind of play out the evening here. But let's pull that up if you all haven't seen that. They have a full panel on there. It looks like Jesse Weber's on there, Tracy Walder's on there, Sarah Ariza, I think that's how she says it, and Jennifer Coffindaffer's on there as well. So let's play through this. Can I get it to play? Oh, am I getting sound? Here we go.
I'm doing one of these StreamYards, so I'm just going to kind of go with it. Hey, everybody. Thank you guys for joining us. Anyone who's tuning in on YouTube.
I have to say, like, I know everybody gives us a lot of shit for playing News Nation, but I like Brian. I think Brian, in my opinion, is a very good journalist. He's not afraid to take risks in his investigation, but he sticks to the facts, in my opinion, and he gives a clear, concise conjecture in what he does. So
he's very professional.
Yeah, thank you. That's kind of what I was trying to get to in so many words. Yes, I didn't think I had to go that far. Yes, he's very professional. But let's play through this.
YouTube or Facebook or Twitter. We're super excited to have you here. You see, it's me, Jesse Weber, Tracy Walder, Sarah Zari, and Jennifer Coffindaffer.
Sorry.
I was super excited to put this group together. These are our legal and law and crime contributors at News Nation, because you see them on News Nation, but you don't always get to hear what they do
really
kind of in long form.
Oh, that's cool.
There's only so much
Thank
time.
You, Tsunami. I appreciate
so I
that.
thought it
Maybe
would
we
be
can
really
get some
fun
people over here.
to do one of these where
That's
people
cool.
could
you.
really talk and answer your questions. We could take your questions live. And talk about so many of the cases that we all care about and think about so much. Bryan Kohberger, Lori Vallow, some others. So I know people are going to start popping on here in a second. I'm seeing it's live on Twitter, YouTube. Again, this is our first one, so bear with me a little bit. I'm on my way to Boise, Idaho right now, actually.
Just do me a favor. If you haven't already and you're new here in the chat and you just came into the chat, we got about 91 people watching right now. If you could smash that like button, I really, really would.
To cover the Lori Vallow trial this week. My flight was delayed. I don't know if maybe you live on the East Coast or in Florida, but there's like a ton of bad weather over there, especially this morning in Florida. So I'm kind of stuck in Denver right now, but I'm going to get to Boise in time to get in the courtroom tomorrow morning. So that's why my background's a little weird. I'm just in a hotel room, but okay, I think we'll get started. Everybody, you guys hear me okay and everything? We're good to go?
Yes.
Sound great.
Good to go.
you all are so awesome. I'm so glad like you all are my friends, and that we also work together at News Nation, and that you all are.
I always watch. You know what I always love, because let's face it, journalists do spots, and a lot of things are edited. So when you can see them kind of like just riff through something, I think it really shows like truly who they are. I think this is going to be really interesting to see, how this kind of goes. I'm actually really excited to watch this, because you can tell he is nervous Nelly doing this live right now.
Contributors, and I know all of your backstories, but I just kind of wanted to give each of you a minute to just kind of like share that with our viewers, because they see you on TV, but I don't think people realize like badasses you are basically in your like professional career before doing TV stuff. So Jesse, let's start with you. Talk a little bit about
no producers in the ears,
beyond just being like such a snazzy dresser, which I always comment on.
Well, first I should say everybody's really disappointed.
I like Jesse too.
I'm not Jesse Waters. I know a lot of people are expecting that. Unfortunately, he's not here. He's got a prior commitment. So no, this is Jesse Weber. I've been with News Nation now for the past 3-4 months, but I've been part of the network and appearing for about 1.5 years, 2 years. But my background is I'm an attorney. I practiced for several years.
Cool.
It was not for me. Sarah Zari, much braver than me, decided to stick with the legal profession. I went into broadcasting and anchoring. I've done a number of different jobs. I'm currently the anchor of the Law and Crime Network.
Thank you, True Crime
founded
Cafe.
by News
Appreciate
Nation's
you.
Dan Abrams. I'm also an anchor on Sirius XM. I have a radio show called Always in Fashion. I was my father from 710 WOR, some podcast as well. I'm anchoring local news like News 12 Long Island to CNN.
Hey, we might get
and it was interesting, a different career path. I began in the law, wasn't for me, became a broadcaster, a presenter, an anchor, reporter, and I'm not looking back. I love the law. It was great, but for right now,
he's loving
TV
being a
is
journal.
really where I see it. And being a part of News Nation has been tremendous. It's been fantastic. And I'll tell you what, so I'm actually recording this at my dad's house, and he's giving me a hard time that I didn't mention the radio show, which you didn't hear. I did mention the radio show. So there we go. But so that's just a little bit about me. And I know everybody on this panel, and it's great to be on this panel with everybody.
Awesome. And you're also about to get married. So
I am.
We're excited about that for you.
My fiance's here. She's falling asleep as I do this, but she usually falls asleep when I speak, so it's all good.
Okay, Tracy, let's go to you. We were just chatting before this. You've spent the weekend with your 7-year-old at dance competition, so I think you're like almost relieved to be doing this.
Yeah, he's got a cool home studio. I like it. It's cool.
So
like
this
that.
is quite the welcome reprieve. 14 hours a day for the past 2 days. So this is pretty great being here with everyone.
I was like looking at everybody's background too. She's perfectly centered to the painting. She's got the book just over her shoulder. I love it. I love watching this stuff.
I'm Tracy Walder. I've been on the network for about 1.5 years, just like Jesse, and just started being a contributor. My career path is a little strange. I worked in the operations side of the CIA before, during, and after September 11th in the Counterterrorism Center. Wow. I served 9 tours overseas in Europe, Africa, the Middle East, and Afghanistan. My main target when I was there was a guy named Zarqawi. I like to say that, I followed him before he was cool and the founder of ISIS. I worked a lot of things regarding biological weapons, debriefing detainees, those kinds of things. And it was a pretty great job. I didn't want to be overseas anymore. I wanted to be stateside. So I decided to become a special agent.
Yeah, super impressive.
I
agree.
And there I worked in a resident agency, and
he is dead now.
Chinese counterintelligence.
I remember when they whacked
there,
him
and
out.
I really enjoyed it. But I kind of took a little bit of a different path. I actually went to college to be a high school history teacher, but took a little detour when the CIA recruited me. And so I actually left to become a teacher, and I created a course on national security and foreign policy for young ladies to sort of change the gender inequities in that field. And now I'm an adjunct professor of criminal justice at TCU and a mom to a crazy 7-year-old.
Yeah, and I remember when I first met you or first started talking to you and you started appearing on News Nation, I was like, wait, FBI agent and former CIA agent? Like, you don't meet a lot of those. So we're lucky to have you, Tracy. And Jennifer, who I know very, very well, we first met during Gabby Petito. And I always think back to when there was this other former FBI agent that was supposed to meet me out there at the Bryan Laundry House. And
Nothing wrong
I
with
knew
that.
him very well, and I was very excited for him to come, and he couldn't make it. And one of our producers was like, "Oh, there's this other woman, Jennifer Coffendoffer," and I was like, "But who is this Jennifer? Like, we needed this other guy," because I didn't know Jennifer. And you pulled up in your convertible, and like we hit it off ever since, and I'm so glad. So tell us a little bit. I mean, a lot of people know you, Jennifer, but tell us a little bit about you for the people who don't know.
Yeah, so I was in federal.
Why does everybody seem so nervous? They're on TV like all the time. Everybody seems so nervous. It's hilarious.
Law enforcement for 28 years. 25 years of those were with the FBI.
Producers.
I mainly worked organized crime and gang. Is violent crime. Also was on the Dallas SWAT team, the Houston SWAT team, and the San Juan SWAT team, and a firearms instructor for, oh gosh, I don't even know now, 38 years, something. Can it be that long? I don't know, since 1994, whatever that number is. So I currently still teach firearms and marksmanship tactics and self-defense. And then I'm a contributor. And then the main thing I do, I guess my main breadwinning is serve as an expert witness in cases throughout the country involving different types of criminal cases.
And while Tracy goes to
hey,
the
we
dance
cracked
competitions,
100
you're
tonight.
always at your son's
Welcome in. Smash
games.
that like button.
That's like
That's your slow night on the Opinionated Idiot YouTube
Yeah,
channel.
I just flew back from New York.
Okay.
You know, my big son is
We welcome all. We welcome all.
way bigger than me and a Division I football player. So I went to his spring game and got to watch him put some licks on some people. You know, he's a safety, so I like it better with him playing off or defense and offense because he's the one putting on the lick instead of getting annihilated out there.
And then we have Sarah, again, badass criminal defense attorney from LA.
You want me to go ahead?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right.
Tell us.
Well, two things. Let me get two things out of the way. When I grow up, I want to be Jesse Weber. I want to dress like him, and I want his career.
That's not my video. That's their video.
And
Must have
Jennifer
that connection.
Coffendoffer will not be called as an expert in any of my cases ever. But with that said, I'm a criminal defense attorney based in Los Angeles. I've been a media legal analyst for the past 15 years or so on a variety of platforms, including News Nation on and off, since it started. But I've really been, a free agent, like my hat says, cable and otherwise. I've also hosted shows and been featured on docuseries. I'm starting to shoot for season 2 of my own show, Death by Fame, on the Investigation Discovery Channel. And I might be dropping a podcast soon, hopefully. But more importantly, I think I take pride in the fact that I don't talk
Everybody's
the talk.
nervous.
I walk the walk.
I know.
I still practice.
These are people that like do media all the time. Why is everybody so nervous?
Law. My practice is both true crime and white collar. I handle federal white collar cases throughout the U.S. from coast to coast, and criminal cases primarily in California. I've done that for almost 2 decades. I'm pretty old, and it's still my day job. I got to pay the bills.
Come on, man.
So my clients are really what make my practice most interesting. They range from the guy, or on occasion the gal next door, to police officers, to high-profile individuals, and of course, being in LA, sometimes celebrities. A lot of my celebrity clients are currently dealing with Me Too type of circumstances, so that's sort of a little niche.
Minding your own business. Minding your own business.
Together, but founder, of course, best way I can put it.
All right.
To find out tomorrow.
All right.
So
let's
I might
get to the real
strong,
why we're here.
I have nothing but love for everybody.
Yeah, they're
I
just reading their resumes.
I disagree strongly. I guess that's the best way I can put it.
All right. Let's get to some cases.
Listen, everybody, it's fine. Okay, let's start with Jesse.
Reel him in, Brian.
I want to start, and I don't know if you've seen this, Jesse. But there is this new Kohberger hearing that has been announced. We don't really know many details about it. It basically just says a motion. It's on May 25th at 10 a.m. from what we know. I'm going to try to find out tomorrow and, get through to some people with the Latah County courts. But so we don't have any details. Do you have any insight into what this might be? Any ideas?
So no, I mean, look, I should tell you a lot of this case, we're trying to figure out what's happening because so much of it is sealed. I have heard reports that there's a question of, is there actually going to be a preliminary hearing in June, or is this going to actually be a grand jury? And just to give everybody a little bit of insight in this, in Idaho, there would be one of two options for a defendant, right? Would a grand jury come back with an indictment and feel that there's enough probable cause to go forward with the criminal charges? Or would this go to a preliminary hearing where it would basically be in front of a judge? And I've seen, back and forth reporting about that. I think it's an interesting conversation, right? Because if this goes to a grand jury, you have to convince a majority of them that there's enough probable cause. It's really just the prosecution side. Rarely, if ever, do you see any defense evidence being put forward. It's not like a mini trial. Preliminary hearing under Idaho law, at least my understanding is, defense attorneys could cross-examine prosecution witnesses. They may even be able to present their own witnesses. So there would be advantages in a certain way.
This is why I play these types of videos, because we're hearing it from lawyers' perspectives, not people that are grabbing information off websites and making videos. And we want to stick to the facts here on this channel. That's what we do. And this is a lawyer's take. And that's why I want to play this. And I think that's very important to hear what they think, because they've been in the law. They've been to court. They've defended or prosecuted people in cases. So they're just they're giving a legal opinion, their legal opinion.
For a prosecutor to get, maybe a grand jury to ultimately come forward and indict Kohberger. Whereas, that if you look at a preliminary hearing, another way of thinking of it is just trying to convince one person, the judge, to go forward. So that's the only thing that I've heard that could possibly be what this is, trying to determine if there was move this to a grand jury as opposed to a preliminary hearing. Other than that, it's a motion hearing, could be pretty much anything. But that's what I'm hearing.
Sarah,
Lori, you still back there?
I am here.
So what do you think?
I think that they are explaining how it's possible that it could go to a grand jury.
That's been the rumor now.
I mean, what even started, I don't even know what started it. I know I thought about it because they're meeting with Bethany in this meeting, which is not a deposition unless they decide to call it, unless they are going to go forth with the deposition. But I'm just thinking logically, maybe Bethany's attorney knows, which she would know if it was going to a grand jury, because they might want Bethany for that as well.
Right.
My gut feeling is saying grand jury.
Did you say something today that some either Bethany or Dylan TikToked or something like that? Did a new post?
So I'll just let the audience know what I'm up to here. Give me 1 second. I'll put my camera back on. Yeah. So what I'm doing right now is I'm pressing some shirts I need for tomorrow. Sure. So I'm multitasking like I always am. But this morning, it was before I even had my cup of coffee, my first cup. I was Snapchatting a friend and it came across as a notification. Dylan Mortensen, someone you interact with on TikTok, just posted a video. I requested to follow her with hope that maybe she would
say but
a random person that she doesn't know. Good for her for not. And I agree with you, True Crime Cafe, 100%.
Let's get to that in a second.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a second.
But then when I clicked on it, I touched the notification, I should have screenshotted it.
Yeah.
But I just wasn't awake yet. And it came and nothing came up. And when I went to her profile, it's all private. So I don't know if that's a thing with TikTok, that you can get a notification about somebody you're trying to follow, or somebody that you've searched many times. I'm not going to lie. I've searched her up.
Yeah, of course. I think we probably all have.
So I've never seen that notification before where I couldn't get to it. So, I'm going to have to do some playing around, have some friends unfriend me request them, have them post a video, and just do some things. But I was in disbelief. I know I saw it. It came through. And of course, the first thing I did was text you.
Yeah, literally. You know who you look like right now? If you ever seen the movie, the show Home Improvement.
Oh yeah.
It's like the guy, the neighbor peeking over the
Al.
fence.
Or not Al Wilson. Yeah, I'm pressing these shirts for my students tomorrow, and I can't. I lost one of my vinyl.
So what do you think about this? The True Crime Cafe with Dago says, I have a big feeling they're going to be subpoenaing Hunter as well, too, Ethan's best friend.
100%, I believe that.
And
But
then
we're just not seeing it.
Giovanna's asking, Lori, an attorney? Sorry for question.
No, I am a teacher and a college professor. My background is in business and information systems, but I've taught law for close to 15 years as well.
She's a hell of a sleuther, I'll tell you that. She's on stuff right away.
Yeah.
She told me a lot of stuff about me when we first started talking. She's like, bing, 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 bing. I get, all right, you're pretty damn good.
Well, now I'm not going to come onto a YouTube channel and interact with somebody unless I make sure that they're not a creep. I mean, yeah.
Far from it.
But yeah, you got me, but I owned up. I owned up that I had, but I want to make sure I'm not talking to anybody that could hunt me down and kill me or anything. Just saying.
All right. Let's keep playing through this.
All right, gotta go press more
Let me ask you. I mean, if it was a grand jury, it's my understanding that those are done in secret. Would they need to have a hearing for that?
Nope. So the grand jury, the decision to take a case to the grand jury is entirely up to the prosecution's discretion. It's their case, right? And when it's happened to me, it's always happened at the 11th hour. I'm thinking I'm going to prelim. I'm already prepping. I'm talking to my client. And then suddenly I get a call from the clerk's office saying, please come pick up your transcript from the grand jury. And I'm like, what? When? So it's very much secret. The way that it's set is internally through the mechanisms of the court system, much like you said, a jury trial. The prosecution notifies the court that they need a grand jury convened. The court then calls in the jury pool. Now, a lot of counties, I looked to see whether Latah County has this, and I didn't find it, but a lot of counties have a grand jury calendar. You don't see the case name, but you see that there's going to be a grand jury on certain dates, right? I couldn't find anything like this, but you never need the permission of the court. A motion is made to get an order from the court allowing you a certain relief. You don't need the court's permission to convene
Jennifer.
a grand
Thanks
jury.
for
Now,
hanging
what
out.
I do suspect,
that
I
like
don't
button
like
when you come
reading
in.
the tea leaves because I don't like being wrong, but I do, if I were to read the tea leaves here, I would think this might relate to the gag order, okay? There was a ruling by the Idaho Supreme Court last week, and I'm reading these tea leaves just because of the timing, right? That essentially, with respect to the gag order, saying to the press and the parties, because the press came in.
And this is what I thought too, because I talked about this the other day. I think it's a motion, and she's going to talk about it here because there's multiple press entities trying to get access to lift that gag order. And that's what I think the motion is as well, too.
Seeking a lifting of that gag order, and then the parties intervened, essentially agreeing to that relief. And the Supreme Court of Idaho said, yeah, we can give you that writ of mandamus. We can give you that relief, but you need to first get it from the magistrate court, which is where we're at right now. So it's a procedural issue. So my thinking is this might be a motion to the magistrate judge with respect to the gag order, since that ruling just came in last week. But again, I am just speculating based on timing. And the fact that I know that for a grand jury, they don't need to make a motion.
The only thing that I question about that is with the fight over the gag order, with the media coalition against the gag order, it's been like its own case. Like even on the Idaho website, it's like separate from the Bryan Kohberger criminal case. So like, why would it say Bryan Kohberger? I mean, this seems like it's a specifically Bryan Kohberger thing.
Right, but like Jesse said, motions are made for just a garden variety of things, for housing issues. Right now, I don't think this is like a administrative sort of housing issue because there's notice periods in the statute when you set a motion, and this is so far out that I do think it's some sort of an evidentiary motion. It could very well be a discovery motion. The defense might be expecting certain discovery pre-preliminary hearing, and there's rules about what you get pre-trial versus pre-prelim. So it might be some sort of a discovery motion, something meaty that requires notices being given under the statute. But I don't believe it has to do the grand jury, just because convening a grand jury does not require a motion or a court order.
What do you think, Jennifer? I see you making some faces. The grand jury is secret, right? Would they have to have a hearing to do with that?
I'm shaking my head on two things. This isn't, I don't think it's about reading tea leaves in this situation. It's not going to be about the gag order. That is a separate issue, and that was sent down to a lower court. So there's a court, it could go to that appellate court, it could go to a different court. They did not specify the court. It said it should be addressed by another court. That's a separate issue, I believe. This is the Kohberger case. And on the Kohberger case, there has to be a motion for the grand jury. I agree with you. It is all secret. Anything that happens there, the witnesses, who's there, it's all secret. But there has to be an order. And I don't know, we were looking this up today, and I never saw anything that says that order could not possibly be contested in Idaho. I've read everything there is to read, particularly to Idaho, which is way different than the federal law, but specifically their 6E rule regarding grand juries. And I don't know if the order is necessarily secret. Remember, Sarah, they don't just convene grand juries. They prefer preliminary hearings.
Of course.
So I think it's, I'm not sure you're right, and I'm not sure you're wrong.
Yeah, so two things. The Supreme Court specifically said the magistrate court needs to decide the issue about the gag order. I totally defer to you guys on it being a separate proceeding, not part of the Kohberger case. But I'm just saying it is this court. It is the magistrate level that decides that issue. But I have not seen any rule specific to Idaho that says that you need a court order for a grand jury. So that's why I don't believe this has to do with convening the grand jury. However, I do believe it has to do with something substantive. And, you know, it could be discovery, it could be witnesses, it could be any of those things.
I posted it on my Twitter that
Tracy,
they have.
Yeah, they're fighting.
Do you think, Tracy, it could have something to do with the change of venue? Or
thank you, Mama.
Like, would the timing be weird for
yeah,
that?
she's got a really bad connection.
You know, I think that that's a really interesting point. I don't think that this is about the gag order. I do agree with Jennifer in this because it is a lower court, really, that this was bumped down to. So I do think it's something more substantive.
The drama.
It could be about the change of venue, but I'm actually wondering, too, if it's about witnesses, because we're kind of on the heels here of everything that had to do with Bethany Funk and her testimony. And so I'm wondering if some of this may have to do with that, although I know that that's really specific and that may not be why this is happening. However, yes, I mean, look, it could be a change of venue, but I would imagine that that's not something that they would be doing at this point. It seems a little bit removed to be doing that. But again, I really am guessing here at this point, although I concur that this is not about the gag order.
I think we all are guessing. We're all guessing.
yeah. And hopefully maybe we'll find out something more on Monday when the court's open and we can get maybe there's some kind of document or something.
No one's gonna
it's just
agree
like a
with
very
me.
basic line right now. Let's talk a little bit about Bethany Funk because that was another big development this week. You know, we found out she's in Nevada. They were trying to send her the subpoena to bring her to the preliminary hearing, and then essentially her lawyer, she has a family lawyer in Nevada representing her, who has now said she will do an interview with the defense. I assume, and maybe Jesse, let's start with you. Is that in lieu of, so she doesn't have to go to the preliminary hearing? And obviously you can imagine like the trauma probably of having to go back to Moscow. Or are they just trying to take care of this in Nevada so she doesn't have to go?
Yeah, so what it leads me to think is, look, the defense thinks she has some information that is going to be exculpatory to Bryan Kohberger. And when I say that, I basically shows that he's innocent, right? We don't know what they think she has, and that's kind of been disputed by her side. So the fact that she's agreeing to an interview, it leads me to think, and not necessarily a deposition, that they want to get some information from her that is going to lead them towards something else, right? That's going to lead them toward another path to follow. If she says something,
I wonder if they're just bringing her in to discover where she's at, like where she's leaning. I mean, may sound me silly, you know, maybe I sound silly, but maybe they're just kind of probing because like we've talked about, there's multiple entries of evidence for the prosecution and only 2 exhibits for the defense. Maybe that's just an attempt. I don't know if Laura can hear me, if she's there.
Yeah. So
What do you think?
My take on Bethany, I was thinking about this today. I actually think that they're trying to, the defense, they were out of order. There's no reason that you can't cross-examine witnesses at a preliminary hearing.
You're right.
So therefore, they wouldn't be able to access her. From what I understand, they were kind of out of line with trying to subpoena her. Yeah, and that's what I think it is. I think it's perhaps witness intimidation by using official court things and not, going on the sly. I think they're trying to do something to frighten a 19, 20-year-old girl.
Yeah, maybe they scare her enough to not testify.
Yeah.
I don't know how that is. I mean, well, if they summoned you, you got to testify, but maybe to get her off her game or something like that. I always thought that it was just an attempt to kind of shake her up, and because we know all of the how the public is perceived of Bryan Kohberger right now. Maybe this is just an attempt to improve his public image. And I've kind of said that too. Angel Girls 1980. And I did get your email. Thank you so much for that. And she says the defense is doing what they do. I fear they're trying to impeach her.
Yeah, they're trying to discredit her, or they're trying to intimidate her. I don't really think she has much of anything, because she may be a material witness.
Right. All right, let's keep playing through this. Laura, you can go back to making your t-shirts. I'll call you when I need you.
That's going to help them find evidence that they can, in fact, use in a preliminary hearing. And I agree with you. I think the last thing that she wants is to go down back to Moscow, have to relive what she experienced and being in that house when these killings took place. So it leads me to think that, and look, again, this is speculating. We don't really know what they believe she has, but I think they're going to speak with her to get some additional information to go down a different route, interview somebody else, some other kind of information, because they believe that she holds the key to Bryan Kohberger's innocence. It's a lot to ask, considering what we saw in that probable cause affidavit, but that's what I'm trying to see and what I believe might be happening.
Let me ask you, Sarah, one thing I was confused by. So if the defense team goes to Nevada to interview Bethany Funk, is it like they just go to a conference room and this is almost like a secret meeting? Or is there like a court reporter there and this becomes part of the record?
No, so Brian, it can be done in the comfort of her home, right? I want to say a couple things. What Jesse was saying is partially true, is that using this witness as a discovery tool, because in criminal proceedings, it's not like civil where we have depositions and interrogatories. We have very limited sort of places in the case where we can use the subpoena power of the court as defendants to get information that we need before we get to trial, right? Because a lot of these discovery rules don't give us discovery until closer to the time of trial. So here's what's going on here. To me, it's obvious. They're claiming she's material and that she needs to testify at the preliminary hearing. This interview is so that they could determine materiality, because it is the defense's burden to show that. Now, if she is material, then she absolutely will be compelled to come to the preliminary hearing and testify if there is a preliminary hearing. If she's not material, it's still a gain for the defense, because guess what happens? I do this all the time. We go to witnesses and it's their right to talk to us or not. Okay. They might just slam the door and say, we don't want to speak to you. We're only going to speak to the DA. Right. But when they don't, it takes me 5 minutes. I type this thing out. It's like 3 pages with the declaration, and I get them served. And now they're compelled, and there's a subpoena, is like a court order. And now they may go, oh, I don't want to go to Idaho. I don't want to go to California. So what can I do to get out of this? Oh, okay, we can then sit down and talk to you. So it's also strategy, like Jesse said. there's gain for the defense here. Even if she's not material enough to pass muster to testify at the prelim, the defense gets to flesh out what is within this other eyewitness's knowledge that they otherwise would not have an opportunity to do, because guess where you're going after prelim? You're going to trial. So this is absolutely, and by the way, to your point about the court reporter, there's no court reporter. I was retweeting Jennifer earlier about law enforcement. There's no law enforcement in an interview like this. This is not a prosecution interview. This is a defense interview. The order actually says that she will be interviewed by the Bryan Kohberger defense lawyer or something like that. I'm not quoting. Now, defense lawyers don't want to become witnesses and sit in a room with the person, with the witness, right? Because if they have to impeach them down the line, they don't want to be the ones that are taking the stand. So what we do is we take in a former law enforcement who is a licensed investigator, like somebody like Tracy or Jennifer, to be our witness. So that's pretty much how it goes. And the only way that we would produce that, if it goes in paper, if it's documented, I always tell my investigators, do not put anything down in paper until we talk. I don't want it down on paper because then I have an obligation to.
So this question just came up. What are they going to do if they found out she wasn't even there? I think it's relating to Bethany Funk. I think she was there. I mean, she's in the PCA stating that they were there. Doesn't always mean you are, though, but.
I mean, she wasn't the eyewitness. I mean, as of right now, it was Dylan Mortensen.
Right.
Well, if she wasn't there, I don't know how much it would affect everything or anything. Yeah, I mean, no one has just, yeah, exactly. Nobody has discussed Bethany much at all until now. She's just been there. So
I think a lot of that too is the magnitude of the information that we knew about Dylan Mortensen, because she became basically the eyewitness. So she was the one that was always brought up because she saw the suspect. She had, whatever they said, face-to-face contact, she got as close to the suspect as anybody would without not being killed. As morbid as that seems, she was so close that she said that she saw the eyebrows on the person's face. Bethany didn't get close to the suspect that we know of. So I think that's why all the focus has been on Dylan. And then what happened was, knowing that she saw this suspect, it now spins into the 911 call. Why didn't you make the 911 call when you supposedly saw this suspect that, while it even says in the PCA, she never mentioned that she hadn't seen this person before, but still, I mean, again, and I go back to saying this, if no matter what, if I heard the commotion that I heard, people screaming, dog, running around, we know what was heard. To me, I'd probably be calling my roommates or texting someone or calling the police. So that's kind of my opinion on that. I think it's just because it's been so hyper-focused on Dylan.
Produce it. So it doesn't go down on paper. And if this person testifies at trial, then I would have to produce any written sort of statement of her interview that I have. If I don't have it, then I don't produce anything.
So another question's come. Samantha says, did the defense have all the evidence from the prosecution? What do you think, Laura? They would have to, because they can't hold anything back.
They cannot hold it back. However, they have to turn it over eventually. So they might not have it all today, but you can't say whether or not they won't have it all tomorrow, if that makes sense. Like, they have to give it over at some point.
Right.
So if you don't have to keep track of what she says.
No, not in writing.
That's kind of shocking. So Tracy, does that surprise you? And I guess in my mind, I just keep thinking about Bethany and obviously feeling bad for her in a sense, that she I guess this is just the way the law works, but that she has to go through this with Kohberger's defense team.
Yeah.
And, look, Brian, I think that's kind of what I'm focused on a little bit as well. I spent a lot of my time interviewing terrorists and criminals. And I know that she's neither of those. But, I think I understand that this case is not obviously being tried in the court of public opinion. Obviously, we don't do something like that. But we have to be careful in terms of how she is treated, right? And so I think the defense going to her, interviewing her there, those are all about optics.
Who says?
Because
It says Bethany heard and seen things from the interviews. Who says?
It was Richard Bitonti's affidavit that said she had seen things and heard things.
Oh, yes. Yeah. The recent documents that got released. Yeah. Okay.
The defense is investigating.
Right.
Reality is that doesn't sit well sometimes with people. If you're
I thought you were
forcing
saying like it was
someone
in
to
the
really
PCA. I'm like, it's
return
not
to
the
the scene
PCA.
of, quite frankly, the trauma that she had. I personally do not think that she has anything exculpatory on Kohberger, but I do think that this is a bit of a fishing expedition, because if you read that probable cause affidavit, I've read it several times.
Fishing expedition.
I'm really struggling to understand what exactly it is she's going to bring to the table. And I know not everything was released in that, but I do think this is a bit of a fishing expedition in a way, but they have to be careful in terms of how she is treated, because the reality is she is undergoing a lot of emotional and mental duress right now. And they really need to be careful that, they're not re-victimizing her. And so I think that's something they're weighing in on. Really
She's not a victim. She's a witness. She's an eyewitness.
Well, let me just, if I actually, I'll throw this over. I mean, I don't know if Jennifer wants to talk about it, because I think it's important to understand what she might be important to talk about. Because, DM, Dylan Mortensen, was really.
Either way, this panel, as much as everybody kind of has their little picadillos about everybody, I think this is a pretty fucking great panel, because you're getting straight facts. So I'm really glad that we went through this tonight. We're getting, experts' opinions. And if anybody wants to question their resume, just go back and listen to what some of these panelists have done. So, you may not agree with what they're saying, but I think we're getting some straight facts and straight, opinions from people that have been in the field, maybe for multiple years.
Brian, I just did some little digging. The prosecution doesn't have to give everything up to the defense. It has to give anything that would be considered exculpatory to the defendant. So therefore, anything that may prove that the defendant did not do it. And the defendant has to request discovery. They have to find, they have to request the documents. So the prosecution can keep some things for trial, which is why, oh my goodness, it came out in trial. If you think about the Murdoch trial,
right,
where the cell phone data,
I
mean, that just from the look on Alex Murdoch's face, I believe that was, the blockbuster right there. Like, boom, we know you walked here, we know you walked there.
Right.
So yeah, I believe the prosecution has a lot they have not shared with the defense.
Mm-hmm.
Things will go, it'll all come out in the trial. Yeah.
True Crimes Cafe saying this is the real deal. Great stuff, Brian. I appreciate you. I appreciate that. Again, if I could ever get the caliber of these guests on my panel, it would be really great. But we can kind of think they're with us in spirit, I guess. But we'll keep playing through this.
A big component of that probable cause affidavit.
Maybe
but
someday.
It seems to me that where Bethany Funk comes in and plays a vital role is the timeline.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the last time that she saw Ethan and Zana, when they were at that fraternity house, when she believed they came home, when she said everybody else came home, that timeline is critical for the prosecution in terms of mapping out when the killings happened and also mapping out the whereabouts of Bryan Kohberger. So if they can say that her timeline of events was off, I mean, I don't mean to steal the show here, but I want to throw it over to Jennifer. If her timeline's off, that could be very problematic for the prosecution, and that's maybe what they might be trying to, hone in on. Jennifer, that's what I think.
Well, yes, I concur. Not only that piece, but also anything that could be not in line with what Dylan Morton
I
said,
agree.
whether it's talking about noises or whether it's talking about a dog barking, anything that will be show something contra to that. I think that's what they want her in there for. Look, they have all her statements. Discovery has been made. Every report regarding what she had to say, they have already. And we saw that their investigator could not produce any information, at least that was on his affidavit, anything factual as to what she had to say that was exculpatory. It was a big goose egg. I concur with everything Tracy said. I want to say, Sarah, they're going to know, the prosecution will know exactly what she says in there. This isn't some big hide, some big show, clandestine situation. Her attorney's going to be there in there, and she's a prosecution witness. They've already interviewed her.
I'm not saying, I'm not saying it's secret.
I can interrupt you 1 second. So all I'm saying is that, yes, there's got to be an investigator in there. As I pointed out in Twitter, there has to be a law enforcement officer or an investigator in there because lawyers don't want to be their own witnesses.
Right.
So that was obvious that this isn't just the defense controlling this.
No, well, wait, Jennifer, I think we're saying the same thing, but not, right? It is a defense interview. A defense interview does not involve law enforcement. Even though most of our private investigators are former law enforcement like yourself, because we respect you, they are not current law enforcement. Law enforcement works for the prosecution. So the fact that she's a prosecution witness does not allow law enforcement officers working for the prosecution to sit in on an interview. Now, that doesn't mean it's secret. No, I didn't say that. They could stipulate for somebody from the prosecution to sit in, but as it stands, this order on its face, it says that the defense gets to interview her. And so the defense doesn't bring in, a current law enforcement officer to help them out? No, they've already had a chance to do their investigation. This is the defense now trying to see if she's a material witness for prelim. Now, I agree with Tracy too. It's a fishing expedition, but hey, what's wrong with a fishing expedition? We don't get a lot of opportunities to get discovery. So to me, it's smart strategy. If you can use some proceeding, which there's not a lot of in a criminal proceeding before trial, to be able to get the information you need to put together the best defense you can, then hey, power to you. That's my position with respect to this. I don't know how far her attorneys have thought about it, or Kohberger's attorneys have thought about it, but I think, I think this is a great opportunity for the defense, whether she's material or not.
But even after this interview, they can still, she could still be subpoenaed to the prelim, right? This isn't like she doesn't have to go because she's doing the interview.
If she's material and they can prove that she's material in this interview, they elicit her proffer, basically what she would say if she took the stand. And then, like Jennifer said, it's not a secret. You turn that over to the court. You say, this is what she's going to be saying. That's why it's material. And guess what? Everybody has a copy. The prosecution has a copy. The court has a copy. And she has to be compelled and come to testify.
So do you think that Bethany and her attorney are thinking to themselves, we don't have any exculpatory evidence. We don't have anything crazy to share. So let's do this interview so that we can say that, get that out there. And then they won't make us come to the prelim.
Like play games? Yeah. Some people do that. I don't know.
Well,
you're nodding your head, Tracy. It seems like that makes sense though. Why else would they agree to the meeting? Why not just we have to go to the prelim? Why have to go through these two awful things?
This is what I originally thought that she was doing. And also, and I know I'm going to just be very blunt about this. We also have to look at just her as a witness, right? And Dylan as well. I don't think that the defense is hanging their hat on their testimony, right? These are two young ladies who, I don't know what they were, thinking at that particular time, if they had been intoxicated or those kinds of things. So many other factors go into that. I don't think the defense is really, hanging their hat on their testimony. But to Jesse's point, yes, particularly in the case of Xana and Ethan, maybe her timeline might come into play. But I do think that something she and her attorney are hoping is that they agree to do this interview, they do it, close the chapter on it, and move along because they have nothing to offer. That's what I'm thinking.
And that might very well be the case. There might be a dispute as to whether what she has to say is material or not. And so she sits down, in her home state, says what she knows and saw and heard, and if it's not material, so be it. But again, I think long run, at least the defense knows what this person's going to say down the road at trial.
Real quick, that subpoena too has already been quashed, so they would have to re-subpoena her. And secondarily, as an expert witness, if I were in there as working with this team, I would take notes and I would write a report. There would be no defense attorney that could convince me not to write a report, because that's the proper thing to do. Just getting that out there.
And one thing to throw into the mix to complicate everything, isn't it possible, because my understanding under Idaho law is if you cannot produce a witness at a preliminary hearing or at a trial, let's say the trial, right, because they live so far away, there's some undue hardship, there's a possibility that couldn't she never even have to physically be present in that courtroom for her testimony to actually be played for that jury? I know that's happened before in other trials, in other cases. So if the real concern is for her traveling all the way back to Moscow, going in front of a courtroom, going in front of a jury, couldn't there be some sort of way where her deposition or her testimony is recorded, there was cross-examination that's played for a jury later on, which might be, I don't know, maybe something that could happen here.
Yeah, I mean, she then the burden's on her to show that it's too burdensome for her.
Yeah.
To
Just want to pause really quick. If you all just coming into the chat tonight, we have about 113 people watching. If you haven't already, just go down and smash that like button. It's free to do that. I really would appreciate it, because we're trying to get to 100 likes by the end of the stream. That helps push this out into the algorithm.
Even if they pay the costs and do all that. And then, of course, I mean, this happened in a lot in the Robert Durst trial. You know, a year and a half ago, a lot of it was by deposition, because they were afraid that they would lose the witnesses. Some of them were old, some of them were ill. So it happens routinely, and they could preserve her testimony that way. But then the burden shifts to her to show why she can't physically be present, because there's nothing like being right there in front of a jury and being cross-examined.
Let me get to a few questions that have been coming in. Laura asked, and I think we don't even have to answer this because we just don't know. What does Bethany Funk know that is exculpatory evidence and could possibly free Bryan Kohberger? We don't know. That's the issue. In that
that's kind of a
document
goofy
by the
question.
investigator, it just said exculpatory. It didn't give any details, so we just don't know. Sleuthy asks on YouTube, can Sarah explain that witnesses do in fact testify at preliminary hearings, since the defendant has the right to cross-examine, like Melanie Gibb testifying at the Chad Daybell preliminary hearing?
So the preliminary hearing is really, I don't want to say, it's really a tool for both sides to test the strengths and weaknesses of the case. Sometimes certain charges drop, sometimes they don't, mostly they don't. But
I've been kind of playing a little bit more Bryan. I kind of like him, but I mean, we grab Banfield every once in a while, but I want to start using Bryan a little bit more when he does do stuff, because I really tend to pull to his point of view. Banfield's a little bit more out there, but I mean, we can pull some Banfield up every once in a while, but I just really wanted to hear what Bryan had to say, because he hasn't done really a long, I'd say it was his first stream tonight doing this, but a long session like this, usually just does spots, kind of the man on the street.
In this case, I'm sure he'll be bound to answer a trial, but really it's for the prosecution to put on its witnesses. Rarely does the defense put on an affirmative defense to then be able to call its own witnesses, but they can certainly call their own witnesses to impeach the prosecution's witnesses and evidence at the prelim. So one of the things that I've been unclear on here is whether Bethany is a witness that is going to some sort of an affirmative defense, and that's why they're saying she's exculpatory, etc., or if they're trying to introduce her as an impeachment witness to poke holes at the prosecution's case, because the prelim is where you challenge the strengths of the prosecution's case, you poke the holes there. So, but to your point, I mean, it depends on whether they're putting on an affirmative defense or they're impeaching the prosecution's witnesses. But either way, they have a right to go beyond just cross-examination.
Let me ask you this, Jesse, and I'm obviously not a lawyer, and maybe this is a really stupid question, but I'm just trying to make sure I understand it. So
your dad's one of the greatest lawyers.
He'll appreciate that if he's watching. Yeah. So it's the prosecution who gets to decide whether to have a grand jury. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, they weigh the strengths of it. They weigh whether or not they want to go the preliminary hearing route and they want to go the grand jury route. Look, they are the only ones, particularly in this case, since so much is sealed, they know how strong the evidence is. We got a glimpse of it in the probable cause affidavit, but my opinion is they probably have.
You want to answer that, Laura? So TF20 is asking, what will they do if this ends up going to a grand jury?
So if this ends up going to a grand jury, the prosecution will meet with the grand jurors in private. They will see if there's enough evidence to go to trial. It will be led by I'm trying to think of the proper term, the head juror, like my mind is a blank right now, but it'll
Foreman.
The foreman, thank
They
you.
call them
It'll
a
be
foreman.
run by the foreman.
Yep.
And they'll be the one looking at evidence, talking to witnesses. They'll be the one running the show while the prosecutor is just there listening, and then the grand jury will decide, yes, there's enough to go to trial, and then he will be indicted. And then that basically washes away the preliminary hearing, because then there's no reason for that, and then they set the trial date and they start with all of that. I mean, Idaho, with it being a non-grand jury state, what that means is that I don't want to say most states, a lot of states have this thing where capital cases like this, like murder cases, go right to a grand jury. They ignore the preliminary hearing. Idaho has a different setup with their state government where they do allow for a preliminary hearing, but it means they could also convene a grand jury. And I know it was spoken about a little bit ago where they were looking on Idaho's court case calendar when they convene their grand juries. And I know my local county has like a calendar where it says like these are the grand jury days. It doesn't say what the case is on that grand jury docket, but it just says these are the days. I've been looking at that calendar, and there's some dates where nothing is on for a court hearing. That would lead me to believe if there's nothing on for that, I believe it's May 5th. I noticed there's nothing on for May 5th.
That might be the meeting.
So I'm thinking, you think they're all off for Cinco de Mayo, or do they have something going on that, I mean, the judges obviously have some, so they very well could be convening a grand jury as early as Friday. I don't know. I'm just
We're
digging.
speculating, right? We're just
I'm a
speculating.
digger. I will sleuth and I will look for things, and I keep looking, keep refreshing, go back to the same web pages, see if there's anything different, which is why that email that came through earlier, good eyes. I mean, we debunked, Bryan debunked it, but yeah, good eyes. But I believe we'll hear about a grand jury by the end of May. And then who knows? Who knows what this motion is? The more I keep hearing things, the more I think the motion's not a gag order. The motion is not a change of venue. It's something minor, probably, that isn't really going to matter much.
Yeah, and True Crime Cafe makes a good point. I think they're just saying in relative, like, when will this go? Everybody's going, when's this going to go to trial?
Yeah.
I want everybody to make sure to keep this in your back pocket. This might take a long time to get to trial. It may take a while, so this may not happen as quick as everybody thinks that it's going to happen. If it even goes to trial, we don't know, because there could be a dismissal. We don't know. We don't know. I'm just saying that. Again, I stick to the evidence. In my opinion, the evidence is very, very strong in this case. And I've always said this all along too. We haven't seen or heard everything yet, but we will once we start getting to those prelim hearings. We will start hearing more of what's going on. I think that's the big mystery about this, is there's so many other $1 million questions that haven't been answered yet.
And, I think we all see, we all probably want the preliminary hearing, because then we'll get more info.
Right.
If it goes to a grand jury, we're not going to hear much of anything.
Yeah. Me as a content creator, I hope it goes through a preliminary hearing so we have things to talk about instead of all this speculation that people are coming up with, naked man and cartels and all this shit. It'll straighten all of that out. It'll be the facts, and we will know. But the funny thing is, and Laura, I was saying this the other day, this is the funny thing about all of this. No matter what side of the fence that you sit on, guilty or innocent or whatever, okay, if you are stuck in a certain area, the scale of justice is this way, or the scale of justice is this way, and it's cemented, it's not going to matter what happens. Either if there's the mounting amount of evidence, there are some people out there that are going to say, even if he took, the suspect took videos of him doing these crimes and it was flat out that person that did it. Some people will say it's a frame job. He's innocent. He walks.
They'll claim it's deep fakes
Or whatever. Then you have to look at the other side of the argument too. Let's say all this evidence is bullshit, but but it's so strong that, it comes out, it's corruption, this and that. And they just say, well, they framed him the whole entire time, so you got to keep that in mind too. I'm open to the fact of, some people that may change their mind. That's what we're trying to do here for these streams, open it up and to say, look, maybe you think, it's one way or another. And we give both sides of the story and open up to that type of conversation. So we'll continue to play through this. It's getting to the 2-hour mark. I know it's getting a little late here in the East Coast. My plan is this. I think when they switch to Lori Vallow, probably going to pull that out and end the stream. But I'm thinking this is going to be more Bryan Kohberger at this point, and we'll finish this out.
So much more. And they maybe at the time than they even showed it that probable cause affidavit. They probably have a lot more now than they did. And look, I think they're weighing whether or not to go the preliminary hearing route or the grand jury route. As I mentioned at the beginning, there are advantages to each. But yeah, this is the prosecution's case. This is their burden. And they're going to have to decide which is the best way to show that there's enough probable cause, enough reasonable suspicion, enough to show
Jeff,
that
what's
evidence
up, buddy?
supports these charges.
Good to see you
and
in
go
the
forward
chat.
with a trial.
So if they decide to let's do a grand jury and then there's no prelim, the defense then doesn't get the opportunity to question
Right. And we said that
everything that's happened, doesn't get a chance to go after the evidence and say, no, we want to question this person. This isn't right. Blah, blah, blah. That all just goes away.
Well, I mean, it's in secret, right? And it's not really supposed to be a mini trial. It's not an opportunity for the defendant.
Yeah, and keep this in mind too. As we're seeing in the Lori Daybell case, there may not be cameras. It might just be audio. So keep that in mind too. I don't know what the court proceedings are in that particular area of Idaho, but in Boise, the judge is not allowing any cameras. It's just audio. And this judge may do this in this case as well too. So keep that in mind.
Or the defense to come and present their evidence. It's not. I mean, when we look at what happened in the last month and a half with Trump,
depends on the judge.
That was a grand jury. It was in New York, and we had an opportunity to present a witness that was going to impeach the credibility of Michael Cohen. You don't usually see that a lot of times. So, I mean, and Sarah, you can feel free to disagree with me, but I think that would be one of the advantages for the prosecution here to go the grand jury route, is to basically not turn this into a mini trial, which is what the preliminary hearing in front of the court.
But why
could
wouldn't
be.
why not just go the grand jury route if you're the prosecution?
Because you have to convince more people. You have to convince more people. You have to convince the majority of those jurors.
Right? But you're in control. We've seen the probable cause, which seems pretty strong.
Yep.
And why not just avoid all of this and just do the grand jury?
Well, can I jump in?
Yeah, bad
Because
connection.
the prosecution has an obligation to present Brady Giglio material, which is exculpatory material. They cannot just present their case that they would at a prelim. They can't just present evidence that's against the defendant. So they have a duty, because the defendant does not get a chance to be there and defend himself or cross-examine. The prosecution has that duty to bring in exculpatory evidence. But I agree with Jesse. New York is one of the few exceptions where I was actually surprised.
Let's pause this real quick. So Cactus Floss says, Brian, I had a question about the show you had earlier with Laura with the Gonzalez interview. Okay. We'll wait to see that question come up. See if we can answer it, Laura.
I'm game.
Yeah, shoot the question. Let's see what we got. By the way, I'm going to have, I'll show everybody. I made some bracelets available, and I don't know if you're going to be able to see them. Let me just back this out real quick. Here. I made some bracelets available, and they say the Opinionated Idiot YouTube channel, and then on this side, it says official idiot. I'm going to have those for sale soon. I'm just trying to set everything up. I know I owe a couple people those. I'll have those sent out tomorrow. So they'll be sent out in the mail tomorrow. where, yeah, Cactus, whenever you want to throw that question up, we'll be able to look at it and see what you're asking. Throw it up there. Says, I interpreted as Xana was the target since she said they didn't have to go upstairs. Do you want to take this? How about we do this? Lori, you give your opinion and I'll give you my opinion on it.
I believe that when Steve Gonsalves said that, he said, I mean, I believe it's not fact that he entered in the sliding door, but I believe we can all, based on conjecture, say that he entered and he said that he didn't have to go up. He didn't have to go up there and kill my daughter and her best friend. He could have just killed the people on the second floor and been done with it. But he purposely walked up that flight of stairs and went and killed them. So I think that's his take. Like, he purposely went up those stairs. He didn't have to go up those stairs if he wanted to kill. But like, if he just wanted to kill, there was 3 people right there on the second floor. And also Bethany in the basement, well, the bottom floor. He didn't have to go upstairs to kill. So therefore it was targeted. That's what I'm getting at. And I believe that aligns with the things that Steve Gonsalves had said about him saying but not saying that he believes the target was Kaylee or Maddie.
Yeah, I think
Victorine.
Yeah, I kind of am line and agree with Victorine. I think it was a father's reaction to the moment. Like, he didn't have to go up there. Like, you didn't have to go up and kill my daughter, kind of in that sense of it, the way that I read it. A father kind of pleading and screaming out to this person that did this. I think it's just what's the word I'm looking? Maybe like a subconscious the mind speak. Yeah, right. Like, you didn't have to go up there. You didn't have to go up there. That's kind of how I read it. And again, I'm not wrong. I don't know if I'm right or wrong. I'm not Steve Gonsalves. I don't know how he's feeling through this. We know how he's feeling through this, but in that moment, we don't know. So True Crime says, which means the third floor was the target. We believe so.
I believe so.
We believe so. Yeah, we believe so. So. All right, let's keep playing through this video here. Almost going to wrap it up.
The defendant has a right to testify at a grand jury hearing, and then instead Trump sent his lawyer in. But but most states and here in Idaho, you don't get to. You're not in the room. Your lawyer's not in the room. You don't know what's happening. Like I said, you get a call. The lawyer gets a call to go pick up the transcript, and you're like, "Holy crap!" You're reading all this stuff and going, "Damn!" I didn't even get a chance to challenge.
I agree,
this.
Angels.
But yeah, that's the key with they go in, they present their
I
case,
agree.
all bad facts, but they also have to bring in anything exculpatory. And I think
Cactus says,
right
thank
now
you.
we've said,
Thank you for the
Jennifer,
question.
Yes, thank you.
I remember
We
seeing
try to
on
answer
Twitter
it all fair,
stuff
fair
about
and
one of
balanced.
the officers having some sort
Not
of
like a Fox News thing.
internal investigation issue. We don't know what that
I don't
is or how
align
grave
myself
it
with the
is,
mainstream
but
media.
there's that kind of giggly Brady stuff. There's there's this inconsistent statements by Dylan. I don't think the case is as solid as we're speculating. So all that exculpatory stuff has to come in as well.
And Tracy and Jennifer both being on the law enforcement side, I mean, it's law enforcement and detectives that got called in to testify in part at these, if there is a grand jury, at these secret grand jury hearings. Do you both think that that's the way this is going to go? That we just won't know about it, but that will happen before the prelim? You can start, Tracy.
Oh, so I was going to defer to Jennifer.
No, you're fine.
Go ahead, Jennifer. You go first. I'll go second.
Either way, that's the way it should go. This is a no-brainer in almost every other state, but Idaho truly defers to the preliminary hearing. That's just the way they handle these types of situations when someone is charged via criminal complaint. So I understand that's their norm. This case is not the norm, and I hope they have a grand jury. I think they should. Will they? I'm not sure.
I agree with Jennifer. This is one thing I agree with Jennifer on is they should. I've been saying, where the hell is the grand jury indictment in this case? Like, when is it happening? I just don't understand. I don't know. What is the stats? Do we know the stats on how many grand jury indictments they've had in Latah County? I don't know, but it's very odd to me.
I had
all
a feeling you
too.
guys would agree on something. Sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Tracy.
I agree with Jennifer 100%. I am very surprised. I'm sure Jennifer's testified in front of a grand jury many times. I have as well. And I've never seen, something go to preliminary, not to a grand jury. And I'm very surprised we don't have a grand jury indictment, to be completely honest with you. And so I fear that if it goes to preliminary, it's going to turn into a bit of a circus, which is what they don't want.
Right.
And a grand jury just seems like the best move, quite frankly. I'm coming at it from a prosecution side, but it seems like the best move from the prosecution side.
And by the way, it was the defense's perspective. This is exculpatory information. We don't know. It's their opinion that it's that strong.
Right.
We have no idea what it is.
Right. It might have just been one little line they read in a police report that's not even really that big of a deal.
We blow things up. We blow things up for sure.
Oh my gosh! Listen to you.
We would have seen it in that affidavit. If there were fire there, we would have seen it in the affidavit. We're just seeing a little smoke. I don't know what was
But if they're just trying to make it look like Kohberger did it in the affidavit, why would they include something that doesn't make it that look right? I mean, the prosecution wouldn't want to include something that would make Kohberger look good, right?
I mean, in the PI affidavit, in their
I see.
private investigators' affidavit, there was nothing other than a conclusion. There was no evidence in support of that.
Yeah,
That's the
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I
no
was
worries.
thinking of the other one. Okay, I just want to get each of you on this, and then we can quickly move on to Vallow. This is a question from YouTube. So
I'm gonna close this up when they go to Vallow. I just kind of wanted to touch a little bit on that, but I wanted to get the majority of the Kohberger stuff here. So we'll play out this until they go to Vallow. Then we'll just we'll say our goodbyes, and then we'll be back on Tuesday.
Kevin Oak. And I want to know what each of you think. We can start with you, Jesse. What is your panel?
Actually, I may, because I have tomorrow off, I may do a mid-afternoon stream tomorrow. So keep your eyes out.
About the sealed nature of this case. Do they think it's helping or hindering an unbiased jury with news outlets and sleuths releasing and over speculating about everything? And I've wondered about that too. Does it being sealed and the gag order sort of just make even more of a crazy fury behind the scenes? What do you think, Jesse?
Okay, so I have a conflict of interest, and the conflict of interest is I am a member of the media.
Yeah,
my
exactly.
perspective is I would love.
I have a conflict of interest too. I'm not saying that I'm a member of the media, but I do report on the story. I don't know. I'm not like a media member, am I, Laura? Where are we?
Yeah, I believe. I
mean,
believe
we're reporting, right? Do you get like an official card or something? Like, are you indoctrinated into a special family or something when you say you're a media person? How does that work?
I do think this is the media right here. We are living the media. I'll have to print some cards up. How about if I make you a t-shirt?
Okay. True Crime Cafe says, yes, again, great stuff, Brian. Awesome show tonight. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. All right, let's finish this up.
To know everything that's going on. But I think we have to rewind to, do you remember when
I need a media hat like Jay
was? Do you remember when there was the search for who did this? And there was a ton of
you get the hat. AZ says I get the hat and a secret handshake.
There was a ton, and I completely understand what was happening at the time. There unfortunately was mismessaging between different agencies. And
this is why I feel bad when our audience is light, they miss out on the best shows. This show is so great tonight. It's such a great show. I love the chat tonight. You guys are great.
Parents, and it was a really, really tenuous time where we weren't really sure what was happening. And I think that is what may have led to this gag order. And so as much as I would like to have more information and us not reading the tea leaves, I 100% understand why there is a sealing nature here. I think it's trying to protect not only, let's just say, the prosecution's case, but it's also protecting the defendant as well. But when we talk about protecting the prosecution's case, we have to remember that they don't want to do anything that would jeopardize their case, whether it's influencing a jury panel later on when there's a trial or giving the defense any information that would say that this was an unfair prosecution. So I understand why it's sealed. Again, I do have that conflict, but I'm not going to be I'm not going to be fighting it in the sense that I don't understand that. I completely do.
What do you think, Tracy? Do you think it should be as sealed as it is?
I do. And I'm sure everyone's going to hate me for
I used
saying
to have
that
hair
because
like
I
that. I
understand
used
like
to have
what
hair
Jesse
like
was
that
saying.
in
I get it.
between.
I get why people want that
And I lost it
information. And I
3
think
years
at the
ago.
beginning, that information actually stemmed from the need for public safety. People weren't sure if there was this killer on the loose, right? And that's what was leading to a lot of this speculation because the messaging behind that was unclear. And I get all of that perspective. However, it was also leading to people being vilified, in the media and on a lot of these sites. And that's also highly problematic. We know that the internet sort of lives forever, but really my biggest reason for wanting this to remain sealed for right now is exactly what Jesse's talking about. I don't want this to taint, a jury pool. I want this to be a fair and successful trial. And I think this is the only way, quite frankly, right now to do that.
But Sarah, in some ways, is it unfair? Because when no one can say a word about anything, if things start to surface that are not true and gain steam, there's really no one that can come out and say that's not true.
So this is the thing with gag orders. Is as much as as the defense attorney, I think gag orders can be good and bad in the sense that, I guess my concern about what Jesse was saying, the role of media in this presumption of innocence and right to fair trial. That's a big concern for me because I see how social media and all the online activity and speculation impacts a trial. Like look at what happened with Murdoch, for example. But then you look back to, for example, the Michael Jackson case, the media publicity actually helped him. He was really the most hated man before trial started, and then suddenly things started to change in his favor. So it really depends on the case more than just beyond the inquiring minds kind of thing. The problem with a gag order is that inevitably it favors the prosecution because usually when there's information and leaks that come out, they're pro-prosecution and anti-defense, and defense doesn't get to say anything. The defense can't really defend those things. So, I don't know what I would do in this case, but it's really, as much as I agree with Tracy that I want my clients to have a fair trial, jury not be tainted, it also has this problem that it really favors the prosecution more than the defense.
Jennifer? Again, I'm like Jesse, I'm biased. I can't help it. I'm like a reporter at heart. Like I want to know everything. I think it's great to have everything in black and white that we can report. But what do you think, Jennifer?
I like it. I want it to stay. I don't even want cameras in the courtroom because I just want it to be pure. I want it to be without all the sensation around it. And I think that that's what is best for justice for the victims. And that's the place I come from.
Okay. Yeah, makes sense. Okay, I know we've gone long Kohberger because there's so much to talk about, but let's quickly talk about Vallow.
All right, we're gonna close that down. I just really wanted to get to the Kohberger stuff because they had some really interesting points, and it's nice to hear, a panel of experts with that, with that pedigree. So, again, we don't know what's going to happen. We have a little bit of a way until this motion. I don't think it's going to be anything groundbreaking when it happens. It could possibly go to grand jury. It could possibly go to preliminary hearing. Anything is possible in this case at this point right now. It just seems like every single day something is different. So, Laura, what do you think?
The prosecution could possibly... we're just finding out about the Bethany thing right now. Mm-hmm. That's probably been going on for about a month.
Yeah, or more.
Actually, I think it was, something tells me March 21st or March 24th. One of those two. So this has been going on for a while that everybody in the case is aware of them wanting Bethany. What would the prosecution's best approach be? Let's throw on a grand jury because the defense is up to no good. And they could say, let's just do this grand jury, which is why I believe we're going to see a grand jury, because when there's cases with sensitive witnesses, this wasn't just a shooting she witnessed. This wasn't just a random killing. This was bad. Mm-hmm. These crimes were horrendous. And she probably saw their bodies. Let's face it. She probably went up. It wasn't just Ethan's friend. It wasn't. She probably saw it, because I think we'd all attest that if somebody said, you know, so and so's up here, you know, whether they're unconscious or whatever, you're gonna run up. It's human curiosity. She witnessed things that we all will probably never witness in our lifetime. She's probably traumatized. So the prosecution's probably thinking, how can we best protect one of our key witnesses? And when I say witness, I'm not saying witnessed the actual crimes, witnessed the aftermath, witnessed what all went down, you know, in the 48 hours and all leading up to it. They can protect her like that. With the media so you know, like we're all obsessed with this case, it makes the most sense when you have a high profile to go to a grand jury to get everybody's nose out of it and keep it as sealed as possible. With the gag order, the grand jury just kind of makes more sense for that. So I think they're going to try to protect the witnesses and throw it to a grand jury. And the great thing about a grand jury is that you don't need a 100% vote. You only need a majority. So if there's 12 on that grand jury, which I believe the number in Idaho is 12.
It's 12.
Yeah, you only need 6.
Yeah.
Say probable cause,
Boom.
indictment, plea,
There you
trial.
go. Right. So True Crime says he thinks that or he or she, I'm sorry, says they think there's more coming next week. Mr. L says if Kohberger actually did this alone, he's the world's dumbest criminal.
He doesn't think that if he did.
Yeah, I think True Crime is saying exactly. Let's see. I think there was I don't know why everybody keeps hashing up old stuff that was talked about like 4 months ago. So Lorraine has asked, you guys ever think Ian Harsh was involved in any way? No.
Yeah.
Nope. And I
No.
think that he was brought out and exploited on some YouTube channels, in my opinion, for clicks and views.
He's out there, but I don't think he's capable of murder. He was convicted of dealing drugs. He obviously admitted
He's a stoner.
Yeah, he just likes to, you know, smoke some weed and throw some fire up in the air.
Yeah.
Just a fun-loving guy that's like, man, something crazy happened in my neighborhood.
I think that if Ian Harsh was involved, you would have seen an arrest or heard something by now.
Absolutely.
I think so, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
Unravel says a grand jury consists of anywhere from 16 to 23 members called to serve, similar to a regular court trial jury. Is that right? In Idaho? Might be different.
Idaho's different. Like, I thought I read 12. I'd have to go back and look.
Giovanna says, yep, clickbait. I think she's, or he is.
A federal grand jury is made of 16 to 23.
Mm-hmm.
So
Emma Bailey. Laura, Emma Bailey.
I think it's just a coincidence. I mean, lots of 20-somethings and college students get in trouble with
Newman says that he's the Cato. Ian's the Cato Kalin of this case.
Newman.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Emma Bailey, I'm not. I mean, I just think she's another red herring.
Yeah. Johnny Archer says, I think Ian is likes the attention and didn't use it super respectfully, but wasn't involved in the crimes. I think so. Ron Jones is saying, is that a Hawaiian shirt? Yes. I thought I would dress up a little bit this evening. Dusted off the old Hawaiian tonight. Let's see. Do we have any more questions? We're gonna wrap this up pretty quick here in a minute. I don't have a marker up or a placeholder for Tuesday, but I will be back on Tuesday, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Sundays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, 8:30 Eastern. Laura, I'll get this out. Believe me. Live show every Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. By the way, there is now a bonus night. I am doing Saturday nights. It's usually going to be probably 8:30 or 9. Those are going to be the live shows, obviously, but that's where we're going to take phone calls. So Saturday nights are phone calls, live phone calls. So I'm going to start doing a fourth night because I really want to blast the channel out there in the algorithm, and then, you know, make some real evaluations maybe in a couple of weeks or months and see how things are going. But again, we're going to wrap this up. It's over the 2-hour mark, and YouTube playback, people usually don't watch a full 2 hours. So yeah, Saturdays are great. They're fun. We had last Saturday we had 350 people in the chat. That's 700 pairs of eyes. It's like a small speaking arrangement. That's pretty good. I was happy. I was happy with that one. But we're gonna head out. We thank everybody for having this small intimate little chat with us this evening. Hopefully we can bring in some more people this week, and definitely our Saturday night shows get crazy. We'll get some callers in. We had some really great calls this past Saturday. Maybe people are a little fatigued this week for Opinionated Idiot. We did a lot of streams this past week, but I want to thank everybody in here for hanging out with this evening. If you're new to the channel, thanks for subbing. We saw a few new live people that came in and caught their first live stream this evening, so that's great to see them. Again, we stick to the facts here. I want to thank my panel guest, Laura, for jumping on with me. She's done a really great job, in the we say like our green room and help me out, sleuths the information. I want to shout out to AZ as well. He's been doing a really great job behind the scenes and helping us out and really giving us some insight and doing some research for us on the side. So we're trying to improve the show, make it a lot better. I am reaching out to guests. Whether I get them or not, I don't know. But you've gotten the emails. We'd love to have you come over and spend a little bit of time with us here on the Opinionated Idiot channel. So we keep things to the facts. We stick to the facts here. And like Agent Shay says in her little description, says it's just the facts, ma'am.
Yes.
So yeah, we'll be back soon. We'll hopefully get Laura over here again sometime to hang out, and we'll go from there. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Be safe. Be fun. I may come back maybe midday tomorrow, lunchtime, and do a short stream if I can come up with anything or I find anything out. And we'll be in the Discord after hanging out. So if you're part of the Discord, please do that. Go over to the community tab because I just updated the Discord link. So if you are a paid member, you can get in there and hang out with us. All I ask you to do is if you come in the Discord, update your name to your chat screen name so I know who's there, because I'm going to vet every month. If you're not a paid member, because it is a paid member perk, you got to either pay or unfortunately we got to boot you out. So I don't like to boot people out, but it's just a benefit for the paid members. So thank you all so much. We will be back soon. Be well, be safe. Good night, guys and ladies. I always say good night, guys and ladies. All right, bye.